What's up everyone, it's the TDubsKid here, and today I'm going to show you how I changed my oil on this 2014 Yamaha TW200. So the first thing you want to do is warm up the engine. I already got it started and I'm just going to ride around the neighborhood just a little bit just to get the oil warm. You don't want it like scalding hot, just warm enough. A couple things you're going to need is some oil, obviously. I'm using the Yamalube 10W40. You're going to need just slightly over a quart, just very slightly. I think it's 1.06 US quarts. And whatever you do, just don't use full synthetic or use any additives in your oil, because that stuff can make your clutch slip. I always change my oil filter when I do an oil change, and then I'm going to change all the O-rings. This time you don't have to change your O-rings all the time, just check them, make sure they're not messed up or deformed or something. And then when you drain the oil, don't just dump it on the ground. Drain it into a container and then take it to a recycling center like your auto parts store and recycle it. And then you're just going to basically need some hand tools, some clean shop rags. If you want, you can use rubber gloves if you don't like getting oil on your hands, and some brake parts cleaner comes in handy. And also another thing you should get is a torque wrench, so you can torque everything down to spec. After you get the engine warmed up, the first thing you want to do is just take the skid plate off. It's just a 10mm. Once you get that off, it just drops down, just a little hook at the back, and it just comes right off. The next thing you want to do is just grab the drain bucket or whatever you're going to drain your oil into, and then just put it under the drain plug. And this is the drain plug right here. And then grab a 19mm socket, and then just loosen up the drain plug. Careful not to knock the bike over. And then there's going to be the drain plug, and then there's going to be a spring and a strainer. So just be aware of that. Here's the drain plug with the O-ring around it. The spring and the strainer, and the spring just comes off the strainer like that. And then while you're waiting for all the oil to drain out, you can just grab all of this stuff, just put it on a clean rag, and just clean it up really good. Sometimes there'll be some stuff on the strainer. I'm going to be replacing the O-ring on the drain plug. You don't have to do this. I mean, you really only have to if it's like messed up. And then I kind of just spray it off with some brake cleaner. Be careful, just if you're reusing the O-ring, try not to get any solvent on it. Just kind of clean up the strainer, make sure there's nothing left on it. Alright, so I got a new O-ring for the drain plug. That just goes in there like that. The spring goes over the strainer like that, and then the spring will sit right there on the drain plug when you stick it in, just like that. So once all the oil's drained out, you can clean up the sealing surface, make sure there's not any dirt on it. That's the part that the O-ring sits on. Then you just stick the drain plug in. And then just screw it in hand tight. Just make sure you don't cross thread it. And then I'm just going to take my torque wrench, set it to 43 Newton meters. And I'm just going to torque it down. once you got the drain plug tight or torqued down, just move the oil drain bucket over to the other side. And on the other side, you'll find this little circular thing with 3 bolts. That's your oil filter housing. And before you take it off, if it's dirty around here, like my bike usually doesn't stay clean for very long, and I didn't have time to wash it before this. Just clean it off. I'm just using some glass cleaner. You could clean it. There's many different ways to clean it off. That's just so like the dirt and stuff doesn't get inside. So next, take the bottom bolt off. It's a 5mm Allen wrench. I'm just using a bit with a 1/4 inch socket. This is technically your drain plug for the oil filter. Nothing really drains out of it, but not sure why they call it a drain plug. Just take a 8mm socket or wrench, and then take these 2 top bolts off. Remember, lefty loosey, righty tighty. Alright, and all 3 of these bolts are different. So the long one goes on the top right. The one with the Allen wrench goes on the bottom. And then the short one goes on the top left. I mean, it'll be pretty obvious if you mix them up. Not a big deal. And then this is the oil filter cover. There's an O-ring on it. It just comes right off. Also, there's a little O-ring at the bottom for the so-called drain plug. And then the oil filter will just pull out. Sometimes it gets kind of stuck and you have to like wiggle it around. There you go. As you can see, there's actually some debris stuck in there. I don't know if that's like clutch material and like some little metal shavings. That's pretty normal. As long as you don't see tons and tons of that. If your bike's like almost new, you're gonna see a lot more of the debris in the filter, and that's normal. And then what I do next is just use a clean rag, just kind of clean off the sealing surfaces, and I kind of just go in here and then just clean out all the oil, the old oil. Alright, next I'm just gonna clean the cover off real quick, just with some brake cleaner. Next, just grab your new filter, or if you cleaned your old one, just grab that. Make sure you have the correct filter. I don't recommend aftermarket ones, but just make sure if you do get an aftermarket one, make sure it has these little holes. There should be 4 little holes right here, and if it doesn't have those holes, the top end, the cylinder head isn't going to be getting any oil pressure, and you know that's a pretty big deal. So just make sure there's holes in there, and there's also a way to check to make sure that you're getting good oil pressure on the top end, and I'll show you that in a bit. It just goes in with those little holes like that, and then I'm going to grab a new little O-ring for the drain plug that doesn't really drain much. That goes right there. Just make sure that's in there or it could leak. I got a new O-ring for the cover. Just stick that on like that, and just stick the cover on. Make sure this little part goes through this big hole, just like that. And then stick all the bolts in. Make sure to just thread them in hand tight at first. Next, I'm just going to torque them down. And the weird thing is that the owner's manual says all these bolts get torqued down to 10 Newton meters, but the service manual says these top ones get 7 Newton meters, and then this bottom one gets 10 Newton meters. So I guess either way is correct. So I'm just going to go off the service manual, just make the bottom one 10 Newton meters. My torque wrench only goes down to 14, but it starts reading about like 6 or 7 Newton meters. You can see that. So this one goes to 10. Exactly 10. And then I'm just going to torque the top ones to 7 Newton meters. So So whatever you do, just don't over tighten these. So 7.3, that's pretty close. .2, pretty close. All right, and then there you go. The oil filter's in, all torqued down. So now I'm just gonna fill it with oil. Just like the oil filter, if it's all dirty up here, this is your fill cap. Clean it off or wash your bike before you do all this. I just didn't have time to wash my bike. I'm gonna wash it later. Just make sure it's clean so you don't get dirt in the crankcase. Just unscrew it. Should only be finger tight. But if you can't, just use some pliers. Just remember lefty loosey, righty tighty to take it off. Now just take a clean funnel, make sure it's clean, and it has a small end on it. Just stick that kind of in there. And then I'm just going to pour an entire quart in. I believe the fill spec is 1.06 quarts or something like that. It's just a hair over a quart. So just pour a whole quart in. And then I have another quart right here, and I just like to put just a tiny little bit in, just to get that hair over a quart at 0.06. You really don't need much, just a little bit. And then just put the fill plug back on. And remember, it just needs to be finger tight. Alright, after that, just start the bike up and just let it idle for a little bit. So the next thing I do while it's running is I loosen this little bolt up right here. That's your oil galley bolt for the head. And what you're going to do is just loosen this up just a little bit, and then just wait until some oil starts flowing out of there, and then that way you know for sure that the top end is getting oil flow. So yeah, just loosen this up. You don't have to take it off, just loosen it like that, and then maybe just wiggle it around a little bit. It's dripping out a little oil. And that means you got oil getting to the top end, so that's good. Torque it down to 10 Newton meters. There we go, exactly 10. And then you can go ahead and shut the bike off, and then I'll show you how to check the oil level. I'm just gonna throw the skid plate back on real quick. And then as always, thread the bolt in by hand. You may have to push up on the skid plate just a little bit. I never torque this bolt down personally. There might be a torque spec somewhere. I just get nice and snug. You don't need to crank it down because it's just a little bolt and it's pretty easy to strip out if you're not careful. Alright guys, so the very last thing I do is check the oil level. This right here is your oil level glass, I guess you could say. It's kind of like a dipstick, except just a lot easier. So after you run the bike for a little bit, let it sit for like a few minutes, and then to check it, the bike has to be level. Like, it can't be on the kickstand or else you're not going to see anything. And the bottom mark right here is the minimum, and then the top mark is the maximum. And as you can see, I'm just about at the maximum. Alright guys, the oil change is complete. Thanks for watching my how-to video. If you want to see more how-to videos in the future, please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys later. Peace out.